The first day I saw you seems long ago. I still remember it was so cold, and you were warm and I with some green tea. You asked me, can you lend me sugar? You grabbed the chicken bowl and shook her, and you put all the sugar right on me. And what a crash, felt a sudden sugar rush.
Cheers. Okay, so the iPad mini 7, I have been using this as my main device in terms of connectivity ever since it launched. And that's actually not an exaggeration. And if I'm honest, this video will probably sound a bit like a fanboy love letter to the iPad mini 7, mainly because it literally fits into every single aspect of my day-to-day. And I'm going to touch on it a little bit later on in the video, but as somebody who uses a dumb phone, this is the Light Phone 3, which I'm stoked to review probably in my next video. But as somebody who's been using a dumb phone for, I don't know, the last 7 months or so, the iPad mini 7 specifically fills the void that a smartphone would typically do in terms of connectivity. For myself, though, it doesn't give me all of the addictive tendencies I typically personally have with any sort of smartphone, iPhone, whatever it is. And of course, that's a very niche scenario to myself, which is probably why I love it so much, because it really does help me on the day-to-day. But I figured I would jump into, the apps I use briefly, because I did sort of talk about that on a previous video. But primarily I want to talk about, how I use this thing day-to-day, as well as my favorite accessories for the iPad mini 7. Now, I do also want to give a thanks to Moft for sponsoring a portion of today's video, but more on them in a bit. Now, of course, naturally, a lot of iPads and tablets exist, and I still have this M4 iPad Pro, which is a beast of an iPad. This thing is absolutely bonkers. Now, despite that, there's also other small tablets like the Lenovo something, I can't remember what it's called, but this new Lenovo gaming tablet came out, which is tiny, absolutely crazy, and that is an awesome tablet. And that one is about the same form factor. But what makes the iPad 7 a little bit more special is the fact that it's not trying to be a computer replacement. It's not trying to be some super crazy tablet like the Lenovo, which I do want to check out. I just can't find it online in Canada, at least. But yeah, rather, I find the iPad mini 7 is the only tablet just trying to be a tablet. And because of that, it's small, and I absolutely love it. Now, despite those other tablets, the M4 Pro and that Lenovo gaming tablet, those are absolute powerhouses. That isn't to say the iPad mini 7 is a slouch by any means, because it really is truly powerful, which I will sort of touch on. This thing has flippin' Final Cut Pro now, which a lot of people actually didn't know about, and I use it a lot for any sort of vertical content that I'm creating because it's awesome. But yeah, it's incredibly powerful when I need it to be, which is also a reason why it does fit into every aspect of my life. With that, of course, I did previously touch on all the apps I use day to day, so I won't go too deep into the apps and stuff that I use. I will have that video linked up here somewhere. That goes more in depth about that. But in terms of the actual accessories I use, that makes a huge difference to the usability of the iPad mini, namely having a Folio case, having the Apple Pencil Pro. My goodness, I couldn't use the iPad mini without the Pencil Pro. And more recently, I did get a crossbody, which I'll touch on. Now, in terms of Folio case, I was originally using Apple's, which is fine, really. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of pricey for what it is. And the prop up angles are a little bit limiting, if I'm honest. Now, in my last iPad video, I don't know, maybe like a month or two ago, I spoke about Moft's new Folio case, which I was pumped to get. That was in Kickstarter, and I actually have it now, which is awesome. Shout out to Moft. Now, full disclosure, Moft is sponsoring this portion of today's video, but that is specifically an accessory I've been excited to personally buy. So I'm happy to be working with them on this Folio case because it's awesome. So like I mentioned, not only does it give me the front and rear protection that I need because my iPad is in and out of bags nonstop, but it also has a ton of angles that it's actually useful for my day-to-day usage. Now, personally, this Folio is a little bit more useful because it has a ton more angles and stuff that you can use. I'll have proper clips of this, but there's a lot more angles that I can use with this compared to just the original Apple Folio, which I was using. So it does open up a lot of new angles for me. The one I particularly use the most is definitely going to be the theater mode option. It's just a little bit more propped up at a higher angle, which is awesome. I use that for watching any sort of media content shows, or otherwise just using it in my desk setup, whether I'm at home or at the office. But what I couldn't do on my previous Folio was have this thing up portrait mode vertically, which is great for any sort of reading or content that I'm watching. There are some times that I am throwing down some TikTok on here, very rarely, but I do have my social apps on here, so it's nice to have that vertical prop up. Otherwise, there's this floating creator mode, which I'm surprised it's as sturdy as it is, but that has been great for any sort of coloring and writing, which is actually surprising. And not that I'll particularly use it with my light phone, but there is like a dual screen mode if you do want to use the Folio for that. If you do want to throw down, your iPhone plus your iPad at the same time, which is awesome if you're on the go. go. But yeah, this thing is pretty lightweight considering the magnets are as strong as they are, which I definitely appreciate. Plus the Moft vegan leather actually feels great in hand, so it does extend the luxurious feel of your iPad, which is always a huge plus. Again, even if they weren't sponsoring this portion of today's video, I'd probably still buy this Folio. So yeah, I will have it linked down below if you do want to check it out. And thanks again to Moft for sponsoring a portion of today's video. Now, separately from the Folio, and again, these aren't in any particular order. These are just the accessories that I really do dig for my iPad. It's going to be the Paperlike screen protector. For myself, at least, I absolutely simply just despise the feeling of writing on a glossy screen. It's too slippery, it doesn't feel natural, and I can't stand it. Considering how much I write every single day, daily, multiple times per hour, having a Paperlike screen protector is definitely a must-have for me. Now, there is the more expensive brand, Paperlike, but they are actually my go-to, mainly because of the quality of the actual screen protector and that it actually keeps my screen looking good. I've tried some of the other paper screen protectors in the past, which feel good, but they're a little bit too gritty. They almost feel like a fine sandpaper. And yeah, sure, while they do give you that paper-like feeling when you're writing on your iPad or whatever, I found it a little bit too grainy. So the newer versions of the Paperlike, I think it's like Paperlike 2.1 or whatever, those are the ones that look the best, feel the best, albeit a little bit more expensive. You don't have to get those, but those are the ones that I absolutely love, and I will continue using that across any of my tablets. Plus those screen protectors, the matte ones, the Paperlike ones, they help reduce fingerprint smudging, which I absolutely hate on my iPads as well. Beyond that, of course, there's the Apple Pencil. If I lost or broke this, I would be at the Apple store today replacing it because of how much I use this thing. Considering I'm writing nonstop during my day job for notes and stuff multiple times per hour, this thing is absolute must-have. Plus, I recently started coloring like a 12-year-old. I've mentioned that in the past. And this thing's pretty impressive with the amount of, I don't know, pencil tips, if you want to call it that. The markers, the calligraphy pens, the pencils, the highlighters. Awesome flipping thing. Plus it has all these barrel rolls and pressure sensitivity, which is something that's pretty useful. Again, I'm no flippin' artist or anything, and I'm not good at what I do at all when it comes down to that stuff, but between the writing and coloring, the Apple Pencil Pro is an absolute must-have, and I really do dig it. But related but unrelated to the Folio I mentioned, I do have this magnetic Apple Pencil holder, which is great to have. I previously actually would knock off my Apple Pencil nonstop, or I'd lose it or misplace it. I have to use Find My to find it. But this Apple Pencil holder is surprisingly great. Plus, actually, I'm right-handed, so whenever I hold my iPad, it's easier and more comfortable to hold with this Apple Pencil holder because it just feels like I'm holding the tablet. Whereas before, I'm just holding sort of the loose pencils. So I like having this magnetic pencil holder, which also acts as a ruler if I need it, which is nice. Now, separately from that, I did mention this iPad really does come with me almost everywhere I go. So I did recently pick up this Crossbody, which I did talk about in my last iPad video as well. I'm sorry, folks, I couldn't find the link. I found it at Costco. You know how Costco goes. It's there and that's gone and you never see it again. But if you can find a crossbody that fits an iPad, your days will be better. This thing does fit my iPad pretty much perfectly, even with the Folio, even with the Apple Pencil, so I really do appreciate it. Plus, it does have all these other pockets for, you know, my wallet, keys, my dumb phone, whatever phone I'm using at the time. It works perfectly well. And trust me, fellas, the ladies are onto something with this whole purse thing. If you haven't used a crossbody before, it can be a little bit life-changing, as corny as that sounds. So look into getting a crossbody. I was not expecting this. Really flippin' love the crossbody. Now, some honorable mentions that pair well with my iPad. If I'm honest, with that crossbody and a dumb phone, I'm listening to audiobooks on the go, and I'm using my AirPods for that, which are awesome. Otherwise, I have my Sony headphones. And separately from that, on the long days I'm gone, whether I'm at the office or something, sometimes I'm honestly just using a power bank on the go. I have this awesome looking Charge one, I think that's how you pronounce it. Great brand, by the way. I really dig their stuff. I haven't used them before, but they actually make really good power stuff, so yeah. Now, outside of that, of course, just briefly to touch on the apps I use on the daily. Honestly, it's just going to be anything you think of that would go on an iPad. So, of course, the note-taking, music, calendar. My homepage is pretty much just going to be all the widgets I use on the day-to-day. Shout out to the Books app on here. Again, I recently started reading. I use the Books app for a ton. Right now, I'm reading Golden Sun, which is the second book in the Red Rising series. People were saying that the second book isn't as good as the first, but I almost find it the same, if not better than the first book. Hell yeah, that book. Absolutely excellent book. I'm happy to be reading on my iPad. Plus, I do have some, small tools like being able to turn off my basement lights on and off through my Govee app here on the front page. And it is easy to forget. This is still an iPad, so I am getting the things like iMessage, FaceTime and stuff that I don't typically have since I'm using a dumb phone. That's just something I actually rely on to stay connected to my family, the grandparents when we FaceTime with my kids, or otherwise the group chat with the homies where they can roast me every flippin' day. I bet you guys don't even watch my videos. I don't know, I hate you guys. But yeah, because of all this iPad has to offer in terms of, apps and accessories, that's a huge reason why I don't have to carry a regular smartphone. And yeah, like I mentioned, I've been using a dumb phone for, about 7 months now. This one particularly, I think I mentioned, is the Light Phone 3, which I'm going to be reviewing in my next video. But honestly, the reason being is because I simply just don't like being connected all the time, which is ironic considering I make YouTube videos. But I don't know, between the constant news feeds and algorithms designed to feed my brain and all that, I really like having a dumb phone. And again, the iPad mini fills the gap to where I want to be connected, but it doesn't particularly draw my attention as much as it would an iPhone or any other smartphone. And yeah, sure, there are times I might use, my iPhone 13 mini, and this I've dumbed down similar to my light phone. I might use this when I'm traveling if I have to, Otherwise, there might be times where I just want to use an iPhone for a week. I did recently review the iPhone 16e, which is a great device. But in this case, for myself at least, this iPad literally allows me the possibility in today's modern age to even consider having a dumb phone, and I don't think I could otherwise. As somebody who's a working professional during the daytime, as well as a dad, there are certain apps I need on the regular. Those are on my iPad, so that means, two-factor authentication, daycare apps, my baby monitor is all on my iPad. So those sort of things I wouldn't otherwise have, which is why I lean into this thing so flippin' much. And yeah, like I mentioned, I write a whole ton. So this is my brain dump where I write, any sort of work stuff, personal stuff. Everything that I'm going to be doing for writing is pretty much going to be in here. So yeah, writing is a huge factor for me when it comes down to my iPad usage. Otherwise, yeah, there are times where I'm going to be an absolute degenerate and I'm going to watch shows on here. I will lean into any sort of social apps. I do have TikTok and Instagram on here. I just don't use them all too much. Otherwise, throwing down some rounds of Balatro is incredible on here. Really, really love that game. But yeah, for some reason, my iPad doesn't give me a huge amount of screen time, which I really do love. But yeah, I will say probably my favorite thing about this, outside of the apps, outside of the accessories, is just how small this thing is. This thin sheet of metal and glass is so flippin' tiny, and it's in the name. It's an iPad mini, and it's the only small iPad just trying to be a tablet, again, like I mentioned, and I absolutely love it. The only thing that has my mind or attention separately from the iPad right now, again, is that Lenovo tablet that I saw. But yeah, chances are if this iPad was any larger, I probably wouldn't love it half as much. Now, like I mentioned, I still have the M4 iPad Pro. So compared to that, this thing has worse speakers, worse screen, worse camera, worse everything about it. Yet I still gravitate to this one as my favorite iPad just because of the size alone. And while all of those things I mentioned are still worse than a lot of other tablets, they're still A+, which is the best thing about it. The camera, I'm not an iPad shooter really, but it's fine for, scanning documents and stuff. Otherwise, it does great for things like FaceTime, like I mentioned, absolutely banger of a camera for that. The screen, yeah, I probably could have wanted an OLED display. I love my OLED displays. I recently reviewed this massive LG OLED. It's my preferred panel, and I would have loved to see an OLED on here. But still, this display is perfectly fine whenever I am watching any sort of shows or movies. Again, for those times I do want to give my permission to slow down and stuff, I watch a lot of content on here, whether I'm chilling on the couch in bed, at my desk, love it. And the screen holds up perfectly fine. Otherwise, again, this thing has a good set of speakers despite how small it is. So yeah, considering I'm a music fiend, this thing comes around with me everywhere, and it's typically going to be playing some music, whether, I'm cooking, I'm in the shower, or otherwise just chilling out. Now, again, this sort of sounds like a love letter to the iPad mini 7, and it kind of is, if I'm honest, mainly because I don't particularly have anything to say bad about it. Now, there are things that I would like. NFC. There's no NFC chip in here, which would have been nice for any sort of mobile payments and stuff. My dumb phone doesn't have mobile payments, so that would have been a nice to have. And yeah, like I mentioned, maybe having that OLED display would be super nice. But honestly, apart from that, this thing is near perfect, and it fits into literally every facet of my day-to-day life, which is why I appreciate it so much. And sort of related but unrelated, again, I probably wouldn't be able to use my dumb phones if it wasn't for the iPad mini 7. And again, as somebody who's going on, 7.5, 8 months now using a dumb phone, I lean onto my iPad for all those modern day conveniences I don't otherwise get. And yeah, sure, it's not like I couldn't just use my iPhone or use a different smartphone as a companion device to my iPad. But again, I just like disconnecting. From a personal perspective, and I've sort of touched on it in the past, it just puts my mind at ease. As somebody who's constantly always go, rushing around, going too quickly for everything, the world moves at a breakneck speed. And sometimes it is absolutely incredible to just slow down and forget about it all. I don't know, between, the world ending every 2 weeks, news feeds pissing me off every day, companies hiring the world's best psychologists to keep my attention, I just like having a dumb phone. And honestly, a lot of this sounds counterintuitive, weird, pretentious, or whatever else you want to call it. And I still have social media apps on my iPad all at the same time. Again, I just don't find them as scrollable. I don't know why. It could be a psychological thing where my iPad, it just isn't meant for social media, so I just don't use it as much. And I will say, since using this combination of devices, and it doesn't have to be the light phone. I mean, this one just showed up, but I have other dumb phones. Between a dumb phone and my iPad, I've never found myself more creative, more relaxed. I'm not particularly comparing myself to other people's highlight reels and stuff. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just finding myself in better moods using this combination of devices. But yeah, over the last while, I've gone from being addicted to my smartphone to doing a ton of other things. I'm coloring, I'm reading, I'm watching anime, and of course, the classic exercise everybody does when they want to change things up. And the reason I even mention all of those is because majority of those things are done on my iPad mini 7. And yeah, I'm not trying to convince you to buy an iPad or an iPad mini 7 specifically. You can do all of these things I mentioned with a larger iPad if you want to. I just really like the smaller size of this one, and I wouldn't likely use an iPad as much as I do if it wasn't specifically for this mini. Now, I will say the iPad mini 6 still exists, and if I'm completely honest, in my day-to-day usage, I could probably be just fine with the iPad mini 6, and my wife has it. It's an incredible tablet. You still have the normal Apple Pencil, which is awesome, and honestly, the iPad mini 6 performs largely the same. Anyways, that is my rambly love letter to the iPad mini 7. I went on a rant about dumb phones and feelings. Let me know what you guys think about the iPad mini 7 and how you would use it. Again, huge shout out to Moft for sponsoring a portion of today's video. This Folio actually is a badass, and I really do dig it. You'll see this on my iPad going forward. But yeah, appreciate you guys watching till the end. Till next time. I wonder if people can hear my kids yelling in the background. I promise they're happy. They're just yelling. Do you guys hear my kids screaming in the background right now? Pancakes.